I am talking to Nubar Alexanian. Nubar is a photojournalist, a documentary filmmaker, and an artist, and a resident of Gloucester. Hi, Nubar. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you, Heather?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
And our friend Sean Horgan from the Gloucester Times just wrote a lovely profile of you in Cape Ann Magazine. Nice.
Yes, it is wonderful.
Yeah, it's a really nice story. So, and he starts with you tell the story of how you began this journey with a camera in front of you. Do you want to tell that story for us?
Sure. So when I was in 1968, I went to Boston University. First kid in my family to go to college, and at that time I wore a V-neck sweater, matching socks, and I was sort of clueless, really. But I was at Boston University, and boy, stuff was happening. I mean, in the streets especially. And so I didn't know. I mean, I needed to get close to what was happening without making a commitment, because I didn't know what was really happening. And so I picked up a camera, and it gave me access. I mean, I could literally, like at Boston Common, when Jane Fonda was speaking on a stage to a whole huge crowd, I just walked up and photographed her. I mean, 6 feet away from her. And so, back then you could really do anything with a camera, especially there is a sort of cloaking thing that we as photojournalists do, which is, I can photograph you doing whatever you're doing with 6 or 8 feet away, and you just forget about me. I just disappear. And that's important in the work that I do, but that's kind of a skill you develop over time.
A way to just disappear into the environment you're in, so
Right.
things can happen around you. And is it something about your character that you were particularly drawn to the action and all the, I mean, there's a lot of tension and, dare I say, violence happening in the streets right then.
I'm just curious, and I want to understand what I'm looking at, and a camera is very good for that. Back then I didn't understand whether I wanted to tell stories with a camera or not. It wasn't very long until I started working for, having exhibitions, doing magazine pieces. And there's a difference between doing a magazine piece, which, you're flown to a different country, you have 2 weeks, you're alone, it's not often with the writer, and you are, you have to know what you're doing. In the work that I do, the long-term projects I do for myself, which is at the heart of my work, it's important to get to a place where I don't know what I'm doing. And the reason for that is, I mean, if I'm going to do a story on you, I need to, and I'm going to photograph you, I need to shoot through any idea I have of who you are. And so I can be there and find you in a new way.
And what does that mean, shoot through to who I am, or who you're?
So if I haven't met you, and I do a little research on you, and then I have all these ideas about you, but those are in my way. They have to move behind me. They can't be in front of me, right? So because doing a story about an individual, for example, it's based on connection. Actually, all pictures are based on connecting with something or someone. So in order for me to connect with you, I have to have any ideas I have about you to put behind me, and that includes just a subject. If I'm going to go photograph, steelworkers in New York City, which I did a big long story for a Geo magazine about. I had my ideas about steelworkers. I mean, I've seen them; they're really interesting, and they're sort of daredevils. But I just have to shoot through, what I know about them.
Excuse me, did you go up there into a skyscraper and shoot them?
Yes. So I did a story for Geo on the AT&T and IBM buildings on Madison Avenue at 60-something Street. I don't remember. They started to go up at the same time. So they asked me to follow the process for over a year. Yeah, I mean, these guys, so the IBM was like just all business. They just went right up. You know, the AT&T building, they have a big arch that you walk through. And so there was sort of reverent feeling to the way that they did it. And it's interesting. I mean, I shot a lot on that.
Yeah. So how high, I just have to ask how high you went up in those, either one of those buildings to shoot a
60 stories on steel.
Wow. Were you scared, Nubar?
Well, I did another thing on fire, coal-fired plants in the Midwest, and than that I was like maybe 40 stories up, and I was going every month to photographs. And one thing happened where I'm walking along the steel. I've got a tether on that I clip on, and somebody fell, and I could hear him. You know, I could hear him go, and I froze in the middle between two vertical pieces of steel. And these guys saw me, and they came down, and they knew to do this too. It was amazing. They clipped me on to a safety rail and left me there. They knew that what I had to do is get myself down. Mm-hmm. And I did, and so I was able to keep working, but it took me a long time.
Wow, that's great. Well, you're working as more of an artist, I would say now, and I'd like to hear about that work. And you're also involved in a worldwide movement of artists. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So lately, for the last 3 years, I've been photographing leaves. I know it sounds silly on a certain level.
I've seen them. They're not silly.
No, they're not silly. They're beautiful, and I'm really proud of them. But it's more of an artist endeavor than I have taken before, although it's probably not true. But anyway, so yeah, so I'm doing that. And then there is this artist support pledge, which was started by, what's his name? Matthew Burrows. And he's an artist in the UK. And this was, he started this a number of years ago, but it became really popular during this pandemic, starting in March, because artists, you know, weren't getting commissions when, you know, nobody's selling prints, hardly at all. So the idea is you pick 5 pictures. Choose 5 pictures. I'm printing them small, 6 by 6.
The artist chooses 5 of their own pictures.
Right. Yeah. So I chose 5. Mm-hmm. You can choose as many as you want, really. But so I started with 5, and now I have 10 up. And you have to sell them in the US for $200 or less. Whenever an artist sells $1,000 worth of their work, they buy 1 piece of art from an artist. And it's sort of a cool community to, you know, so artists are supporting artists. And what they say is it's a generous culture and dynamic economy in support of artists and makers. And it's really true. It's a very cool idea. So for me, I mean, I charge much more than $200 for my work. So, I mean, it's a good time if anyone wants a print of mine to buy one within the next days, because I'm going to stop on the 20th of September.
Oh, that's good to know. All
yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's a very, very good site. It's a good idea.
It's a great idea. So every time you sell 5 pieces of artwork, you purchase someone else's, and everyone's artwork is $200. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
If people are interested in the artist support pledge in general and going to that site and checking out artwork, that will still be up, right?
Yeah. So you can go to the hashtag artist support pledge and see all the work. It'd be hard to find an individual's artist's work there, though, because there's so many.
There's so much.
There are over 1 million artists.
Wow.
Worldwide.
So the best thing is to know an artist, follow an artist that you like, and ask if they're involved with this.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what happens with me. And I found certain artists from looking on the artist support pledge site.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Nubar.
My pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I know there's more happening, and we will catch up again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks. You too. Bye.